Okay, so when you actively listen, when you listen with the intention of understanding, not just replying, and you spend the extra 14 seconds to say, what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z, and you repeat it back to them as you understand it, it removes that uncertainty from the conversation. It removes that doubt that maybe you don't actually understand. Hey, happy Saturday. Good news is it's Saturday, and the better news is we're here for a strategy sprinkle, which is, if this is your first time here, Saturdays we do something called a strategy sprinkle. And what that is a small tactical, practical bit of advice you can take to better your personal or professional life. Mondays we do Mindset Monday, which is a perspective for you to take through the week. And Wednesdays I do a full length episode, which is a real raw conversation. I sit down with someone who's done some stuff in life, and we unpack it and talk about things they've learned, lessons, their success, their failure. And you just get to kind of sit and watch as we unpack that conversation and pick up some real amazing stories. But today, again, it's Saturday, so we're going to talk about strategy for leveling up your personal and professional life. And this one is called active listening. Now, active listening is the process of actively listening to someone else talk. Now, if you've heard me talk before about pretty much anything, you know that I am big on communication. I'm a big believer in the more frequent, more clear our communication is, almost solves pretty much anything. Communication is a big, big, big thing for me. And I want to take you through one of the reasons why. In communication, there are four main things that are happening. Okay? There is what is meant, there is what is said, there is what is heard, and there is what is understood. Okay, I want to repeat that again. In communication, there are four main things going on. What is said, what is heard, what is meant, and what is understood. Okay, a lot of times when we're having a conversation with someone, we are not actively listening to understand the things that they are saying. We are waiting our turn to respond. We already have this built-up argument in our head, or this built-up defense, or this thing that we are thinking that we just can't wait for them to stop talking long enough for us to just regurgitate out. And that type of communication is not productive. That type of communication is just back and forth for you to feel like you did something and for them to feel like they did something, and both of you walk away still pissed off, still unproductive. It gets you nowhere. Okay, but allowing people the opportunity to feel seen and heard is not easy. I get that. It takes work. But the good news is that's what we're here for. That's, again, the purpose of this is to give you those perspectives, those tactical tips for how to do the work so you can improve and increase your communication in all areas of your life. So again, what is said, what is heard, what is meant, and what is understood. Now that tackles both sides of that communication, because what is said and what is meant, right? Those are usually things that you are doing towards somebody else. You cannot necessarily control what is heard or what is understood. Kind of on the last one. People are going to hear whatever they're going to hear. They're going to understand it through the lens of their own perspective. But what you can do is stop talking long enough to actually make sure that they understand the right thing that you said, right? Because you're going to say, hopefully, what's on your mind in a way that is productive and constructive. But if you just yammer on through and keep steamrolling through it and don't stop long enough to actually make sure that they received the thing that you said, that they heard it, they understood it in the way that you meant it, this communication is going to become a mess, right? And especially if you're talking about text. Text-based communication is so freaking hard to do. And I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend you do not have text conversation for anything that involves emotion. Okay, because that can get interpreted wrong fast. And that will spiral out of control faster than you can even believe. But what are we talking about with active listening? Okay, what I mean by actively listening is not listening to respond, but listening to understand. And one of the practical things that I want you to do to take away from this, and I want you to implement this the next time you have a conversation with somebody. This could be a conversation with your partner, with your kid, with someone at work, with a customer, right? Again, we got to remember that people want to feel seen and heard and loved and understood and appreciated. Okay, and you actively listening, you actually hearing the things that they're saying intently, right, with an intention on understanding them, not just an intention on waiting for them to stop talking so you could respond, that's going to make such a key difference. So what does that look like? What I'm hearing you say is, and you repeat it back. Okay, that gives them an opportunity to confirm or adjust. So when you're having a conversation with somebody and they are telling you X, Y, and Z, when they finish, if you respond by, what I'm hearing you say is, and then you unpack it. Now, in a lot of cases, it will immediately make them feel heard. Okay, because they will say, yes, exactly that's what I'm trying to say. Then you can have that productive conversation because you are on the same page with what it is that you're talking about. And if you've understood it wrong, it gives them an opportunity to adjust or correct that to be what the conversation is supposed to be. And you got to understand that adjustment, that correction is not because you're wrong or you're an awful listener. Take the ego and pride out of it. It's to have a productive conversation. Because it's not you versus them. It's you and them versus the problem. Okay, so when you actively listen, when you listen with the intention of understanding, not just replying, and you spend the extra 14 seconds to say, what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z, and you repeat it back to them as you understand it, it removes that uncertainty from the conversation. It removes that doubt that maybe you don't actually understand. It allows you to pause long enough to actually process the thing that they're saying, not just regurgitate an answer back because you're trying to have an argument and you're trying to just get it over with. So that's what I want you to understand for this. Actively listening is listening to understand. Right? Again, what is said, what is heard, what is meant, and what is understood. Those are the four things that happen in any conversation. You got to make sure that all four of those in a conversation, again, those are both sides. Okay, this is you and them together. But when you can both be on the same page about, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to have a productive conversation, not just talk to say that we talked. That's when progress happens. That's when you're able to actually effectively communicate. And it's going to take a lot of practice, a lot of putting your ego and pride aside to not just rush through it because you want to get the conversation over with because you're nervous, you're scared, you're embarrassed, you're afraid of being judged, whatever the thing is. Let's get past that. Let's actively listen. Listening with the intention of understanding, not just responding. Okay, so I want you to practice that some point in this week. What I'm hearing you say is this, this, and that. Okay, and I want you to let me know how that works for you. That is your strategy sprinkle for this week. Something to help you level up in your personal and professional life. Actively listen. Let me know how it works out for you.